Hello, and welcome to this masterclass of Women in Leadership, the Mindset and Communication Skills Needed. I am so delighted to be able to be here with you to bring you a message that is so important to me and that truly more and more women at whatever level of leadership they exist need to learn. I give you some basics to start with here. There is a Q&A button that you're welcome to hit, or a chat button during the course of the day at the bottom of your screen. If you have questions, something you want to say, please do feel free to add that in. I'm here to serve and to support you and learning as much as I possibly can give you. This is not a 1-hour sales pitch. This is a 1-hour training program in which I'm here to really help you learn and see better and better skills to bring into your leadership to help you really become everything you're capable of being as you move up the ladder, or if you're at the top already, to be far more effective in your leadership skills. All right, thank you so much. I'm going to share with you a PowerPoint presentation that I've developed for this. And if there are any questions, please do feel free, type them in. I am more than willing to answer them, whether as we go along or later at the end of the presentation. All right, thank you so very much. All righty, so here we go. Let's move well up to the beginning. That here we are with Women in Leadership. What I have learned so readily in working with C-suite women, women in high sevens, women in lower seven-figure positions, as well as others just starting out. Our mindset in leadership, as well as our communication skills, truly define how far we will go and how much we will be able to achieve. There is an unlimited ability if we are willing to learn and get out of our own way. So let's begin here. The good news is right now, women are achieving more. They are leading more. They are doing more in business and politics in the world. And we are being heard more. All of these points are important, and yet with every one of them, we need to recognize that to achieve more, lead more, and do more, we have to be heard more, which means we have to be willing to speak. We have to be willing to be seen as well as to speak. Take a look at what's going on as of this moment in time, as of this December 2017. 19.8% of those in Congress are females. 25.1% of the House of Representatives on the state level are females. 19%, only 19% of the positions in Fortune 1000 board of directors are held by women, but that is up significantly from just 10 years ago. 11% CFOs globally and 4% CEOs. As we continue to allow ourselves to be heard, as we continue to recognize how needed we are, those numbers are going to change. And that means we're willing to do the work to make that happen. We should be proud of ourselves, even in the world of entrepreneurs. Women are owning businesses at a far greater level than the general public. Look at this alone, these stats for you. 11.3 million women in the United States alone own their own companies. They have created more than 9 million jobs and generating 1.6 trillion in annual revenue. It truly shows you that progress is being made. Women are standing up. They are succeeding. And yet the difference is, let's look at what is the difference between those that are truly succeeding, those who are struggling, and those who are too frightened to start. All right, and recognize that the pattern is here. It's going, it's continuously progressing, and more rapidly. It's this geometric progression that's taking place. And we have grown, women have grown as business owners 45% in the past 10 years compared to the average of 9%. And also, when you look at it as we keep developing more businesses, we are growing at a rate of 5-to-1 of businesses over men. There are a number of reasons for that. The culture, what's happening, Financially, what's happening in terms of more and more women are becoming independent, more and more women, whether it's through divorce or through their own personal development, are either leaving corporate to form their own companies or are deciding that because of all the other demands in their lives, they're much more comfortable having their own firms. So opening up your own firm, you need to be willing. If it's going to exist, it can't stagnate. It needs to grow. All right. So taking a look at this as we move into these positions in corporate, or we move into these positions within the world of the entrepreneur, there are 5 different archetypes of leadership. We've been trained to think of leadership in terms of being the power over, being the authoritarian, being the one who has the answers. And that's some of the difficulty we have in the corporate world as we move in more and more to corporate. And we find out that there is a culture that is very much about linear progression up with progressive more power, theoretically progressive more leadership. And yet, unfortunately, as we're finding, simply because you have a job title at the top doesn't for a moment mean that you're an effective leader. However, I'm a born optimist. I truly am. I'm a realist, but I'm an optimist. And I realized that anything is possible for us if we are willing to recognize the style of leadership we have, where our strengths are in leadership, and what that looks like for us. A general term, and this is general, and for every general rule, there is exceptions, but generally speaking, women's style is far more in collaborative leadership. It's far more in working together as a team, as a community, far less the linear patterns of the past. And so we really are changing how we're doing this. We really are changing what we want to do and how we want to do it. So when you look at it and recognize that we don't necessarily want to be the boss, this dictator over, we want to shift and change the whole perspective of leadership. So much so that there is a recognition that effective, truly effective leaders create leaders all around them. Leaders develop leaders. And then you know you have a solid team if everybody who works for you feels safe in owning their leadership. Think of the power. Think of the trust you can place in your people and what's going on. From the level of the janitor. The janitor is supposed to be cleaning 3 rooms, and then he or she sees a problem in a 4th room. If it's not in their job description, they don't do it. If they're effective leaders, there is a problem in the company, in their field of expertise, if you will. There's a problem. They will attend to it. They will do what needs to get done because they own their leadership. They own their willingness to jump in, always to pitch in and help for the company, for something they believe in, something that they're a part of. Not something they put 8 hours a day into, but something they're a part of. It's a whole new approach to leadership. And with that, recognizing that there are many different types of leaders. All right? We have leaders that grow and change dramatically in different ways. So let's look for you as you're doing that. And you own all of this leadership. What is going to be an impact on you when you do it? When we go in and check out different styles of leadership, when we look at all the options that are available to you, what is the impact going to be on the progression we've had, on the realization that you can define it your way? We're seeing that the doors are opening, and yet you have to define which one do you want to walk through. So many of the women I see that are just beginning their lower levels of management are new entrepreneurs. I'm thinking of going into politics. Well, then if you're thinking of going into politics, why are you becoming an entrepreneur? Where are you going? If you want to work up the ladder, what does that look like for you? Understand, what doors do you want to open? What do you want it to look like? Looking at where your life is today, where do you want it to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 10 years? This is really, we're talking about, you're a leader of your own life. If you're going to be a leader in business, you best first be a leader in your own life. What is that going to look like for you? Who do you want to become is as important as what do you want to do. So what doors are you going to open for yourself in the future? And what is that going to look like? And who are you going to look like? In order to achieve those goals, you need to be ready. You need to be aware of who you are and consciously evolving in both your mindsets and your communication skills. I'm going to go over that in more detail, but recognize that as we realize anything is possible for us in politics, in corporate, as an entrepreneur, and we can do this any way we want, be certain before you start. Where do you want to go? Be aware of who you are, your strengths and your limitations. And then make that decision to consciously evolve in terms of your mindsets and your skill sets. Because the skill sets, communication skills that you have right now may be effective where you are, but will they be effective as you move up the ladder? Will they be effective as your company expands? Will they be effective if you're in politics, as you have a greater sphere of influence? We have to grow into the positions we want. We need to keep moving and growing. Know that. What we also need, and this is unusual for us, we need mentors. We need mentors who are going to support us, who are going to help us grow into the roles that we want to play, into the positions that best define who we want to be. We have far fewer role models than many men do, but we have progressively more role models. In addition, you need to belong to a community, because when things get difficult, it's very easy to talk yourself out of success, to stay in a high-level position, but to begin to fall apart and wonder if you're really qualified, if you're really there. You can talk yourself out of it. You need a community, you need role models, and you need mentors. You cannot do this alone. You really need to be solid, be present in you, but have a community around you, right? So in looking at that, looking at what's needed, let's take a look at the mindset for you. How you view yourself as a leader defines how you view your success as a woman in business. Reading that again. How you view yourself as a leader defines how you view your success as a woman in business. So let's look and see with the different styles of leadership and which one you would claim. We have thought leaders. These are the folks in a company that have this amazing ability to think outside of the box. Whenever there's a problem, whenever there's a difficulty, they're the one that comes up with a solution others may not have thought about. They're the one that can find 5 different ways to approach something, or you give them a project you want to work on, and they can give you 5 different ways to apply it, so that you can end up with products you never even knew you needed or wanted. The thought leader is the one out there ahead of the pack that you can trust will always see things from a different perspective. If we only saw things as they are, we would never get to see how things could be. And a thought leader is the one who will give you the ability to think far out of the box. You want them on your team. And this may be who you are. This may be the skill that you're bringing to your company. Second type of leader is the team leader. And this doesn't mean a manager. A manager simply contains what is and helps it work. A leader is someone dramatically different. The leader is someone who is always out in front. We can't lead from behind. A leader is somebody willing to stay out in front. So a team leader is somebody who has the ability to be in the team and yet out of it far enough to have a clear perspective about what's needed. They can step out of it, see it, know what are the strengths and the vulnerabilities of the people who are working for you. What are the strengths and limitations, if you will. And how do you compensate that? How do you dispense responsibilities based on people's strengths? When you know how to do that, when you know how to read people, when you know what they need, when you know how to speak to each one differently, you have the ability of creating a solid, cohesive team. This is an amazing skill. It isn't just pragmatics. The soft skills are equally important. And as women, we tend to have a natural ability for the soft skills. And some women don't seem to present as such, but my experience is no matter how they present, it can be far easier to develop this within women. The supportive leader. This is the leader, and know if this is you so that you're not rushing yourself into a job you don't want. I know someone well who was the CEO of a major firm in LA. He did it and he loved being CEO, and yet said to me his goal was to be COO. And I said, why do you want that goal? He said, because it's there. I said, but you told me you don't like the job, you don't like the responsibilities of the COO. You much prefer to work with the people, you much prefer to be a part of the team. And he said, that's true, I love what I do, but that's just one more step up the ladder, one more thing I haven't done, so therefore I want to do it. Recognize for you, why would you want to go to a position? Why would you want to take on a job of one of these types of leaders? That isn't you. Know who you are, know your leadership style, and commit yourself to being the best you that can exist in that particular style. If and when you change your style later, go for it, but know who you are and what you want. The supportive leader is that person who wants to be the VP. They don't want to be the brand. They don't want to be the face of the company. They want to make sure the brand looks terrific. So this is the senior VP or the vice president, if we're talking politically. This is somebody who relishes making the president look great, making the CEO look great. This is somebody who loves to manage all the behind the scenes. They love the behind the scenes element of a business. If that is you, you love managing the behind the scenes, coordinating, having your finger in 15 different pots to make sure everything is working. Know that that's your skill set. Know that that's who you want to be as a leader. That can be a highly financially rewarding career. That can be a career that feeds so many elements of who you are. Know your leadership style. Not one of these is the right one. Every one of these is necessary. The visionary leader, that is the person who is out front. That is the face of the company. That is the person who has the ability to create a vision, share it with the entire company, share it with, if you're a smaller business, sharing it with your virtual assistant, sharing it with your support team, sharing it with whoever it is that is relevant to your company, whether it's vendors, whoever it may be, owning your vision and speaking it. So what ends up happening is that people follow you because of your passion, because of your vibrancy, because of your love of the vision and your ability to make that happen. And if you choose to become an entrepreneur with a high 7-figure company, and this isn't who you are, you hire somebody who can buy your vision. You hire somebody who gets caught up so that it becomes their vision as well. So you have somebody doing the type of leadership in your company that you're not comfortable in and you don't choose to develop. We have that option. Know who you are as a leader. And then finally, we have the organizational leader. This is the person who, if a company develops a product, they get so excited because they get to develop new procedures and protocols. They get to go back in their office and create procedures and protocols and subsets and subsets and subsets of protocols, and it thrills them. Some of us, honestly, would rather be dead than have that position. We know we would go out of our mind. We know we don't have the skill sets and don't want it for that. So no, and yet you can see that a family needs that skill. A company needs that skill. So know Who are you as a leader? What does that look like for you? And how are you going to make that happen for yourself, knowing your leadership style? This is so important. All right. Now, as the head of a company or the head of a team, the head of a department, I am absolutely amazed that women do not think in terms of creating a culture. I worked with a woman with a highly successful company on Park Avenue in New York City. Her company ended up in an amazing situation, but to make a long story very short, she became the head of the American division of a global organization when many companies were bought out and put together. And she called me to say, I've got several companies now. And I said, you've been busy founding all of these? She said, no, they were given to me in a merger. I said, well, if it was a merger, you would have one company. If you have several companies, you haven't merged yet. And she was stuck, which is why she called me. We worked together for quite a while as a private client in a year-long contract to support her in creating a company, one company, and taking it as far as it could go so that her division really excelled on the global market. And what ended up happening is that she had no realization that she needed to create a culture before she even started, by creating a culture that she wanted for her company. Even though it was global, the culture of the company in Japan would be very different from the culture of the company in Australia. There may be a general global energy, if you will, or culture for the company, but it's going to be expressed differently in every country. She needed to create hers. And in doing so, by creating a culture, you find out when it comes to hiring people, do they fit the culture that you want in your company or in your department? If they don't fit the culture, regardless of the skill sets they have, they don't belong in the company. So know that. Also, when you recognize you are the leader, this is your company, your department, whatever it may be for you, the culture you create reflects who you are. It defines your leadership. It defines the values you possess, who you are, and how you choose to lead. And recognize that you honestly have to own you're the leader to take the authority to create that culture. Moving down, looking at the mindsets, the absolute mindsets of the leader. We have a pattern, and truly I have been doing this work for years. I was a psychotherapist in private practice for 25 years, and then for the past 10 years I've been moving into working with women in leadership. Certainly I work with men as well, but primarily with women. And let's look at the issues for women, because women and men self-sabotage differently. Looking at this here, how we betray ourselves. A powerful woman has a voice, knows it, and owns it. And she has a mindset that has permission to do that. She has a mindset that says, I am a leader. It's not something I do, it's who I am. And look at it. When you have, and we've all heard this, I heard this in my office here with a woman, but I'm sure you've heard it because it happens many times. You're in a meeting, and you had shared before the meeting your thoughts on something with one of your male peers. We get to a meeting and he presents it as if it's his own. You have the option of sitting there feeling like a victim, feeling silenced, and feeling invisible. That's an option. You also have the ability never to go into defense. Don't ever go into defense, because that is not at all explaining your power. It's not at all putting your power out there. Someone stands up and presents your perspective, and you can sit and sulk, you can sit and get angry, you can sit and give a glare. You don't want to be so small as to say, hey, wait a minute, that was my idea. But there's another way in which you can do this. Somebody presents your idea that you just shared with him before the meeting, and yet you want people to know it was yours. You have the ability to stand up and say, you know, Jim, I'm thrilled you presented that as I shared it with you before the meeting. One of the points I also shared that you forgot or didn't put in here is this. Let me add that, because when I developed this, this other element you forgot to mention was truly an integral part of it. Let me share that with the others. You haven't negated anybody. You haven't gone into defense. You haven't played victim. You haven't tried to intimidate. In your power, you simply recognized what took place. You responded. You didn't react. You put it up there. The saboteur on this for so many women, and it doesn't matter the level you're at, is the need to be nice or the need to be liked. When we bring our need to be nice into our lives, whether it's our personal lives or into our office, we are sabotaging our leadership every step of the way. Being nice means that what I want to do is not intimidate, is not make anybody feel badly, is not make anybody uncomfortable, is not make anybody feel anything but joy. And if you are taking on that responsibility for everybody else feeling good in their own skin, you have no time or energy to take on the responsibility of bringing the best of who you are to your office, to your meeting, to your family, to your relationships. Being nice is absolutely self-destructive. It keeps you quiet when you've got something of value to say. It allows others to be valued, not you. It keeps you in a one-down position. Being nice truly keeps you in a one-down position. It has you striving to be liked rather than be respected. And the fact is, when you want to be nice and liked, you're putting on a mask. You're not being real. The opposite of nice is not bad. The opposite of nice is being real. And if you are a powerful woman who has achieved a position of leadership, own the fact that you are a powerful woman who has achieved a position of leadership. That's being real. That doesn't mean being brutal, but it does mean being real. And it means I'm working with adults. Therefore, it is not my responsibility to take care of their fragile emotions as if they were 2 years old. You're working with adults. Treat them fairly, treat them respectfully, but treat them as the real woman you are. And if they are going to like you, they have to know who you are. And they will not know who you are if you are busy being nice, trying to be liked and unoffensive. A next mindset for women in leadership: you have to own it. If you are busy trying to prove your leadership, trying to prove your power, you've already stepped into a position of weakness. We cannot prove our worth to anybody. If someone doesn't choose to see our value, it does not matter what we do. We can bring in a $200 million project next month, and they'll know it was luck. They'll know it was an accident. They'll know somebody else did the work. We just walked in and reaped a benefit we don't deserve. If somebody knows your value and you fail at a project, they're going to know something went wrong with that project because you are an effective leader, because you are good. We cannot prove to others what they don't want to see. So by keeping energy into proving, we've set ourselves up for failure. Use your energy to be real and to be powerful, because those who don't want to see will not see. Those who do want to see already do. Do not put yourself again in a one-down position. So frequently women come in one-down positions and want to know why they're not being respected and asked up to a higher level. Worked with the women just this morning and a private client, when we spoke about this, that this extremely large company, one of the largest in the country that she works for at a very high level, says it's amazing how the men, even though we're here in these positions, the men still do not hear us. And as I moved on and said, tell me how you get heard in your marriage. And she sat back almost in shock and said, I'm not heard there either. Right. So let's take a look at what you need to do to be heard. and it isn't proving your worth, it's owning and living up to what you say, that's where your worth comes in. This is my opinion, these are my thoughts, and you own it. You don't force it anywhere. You work collaboratively with people, but you sit in your power and own it. Demonstrating your worth through your success calls others to notice what already is. So as you repeatedly have a success story to give, people recognize as you repeatedly have things working, have a team that is functional, have projects that are showing up on time, that have things happening, or that are even more expansive than you had imagined when you started. People recognize who you are by how you hold yourself, by how you present, and by what you achieve. You must walk into a room already owning your leadership. Know you belong there. Know you belong there. Wherever that room is, know you belong there because you already are a leader. So often we can walk into rooms, feel overwhelmed, like, oh my God, I can't believe I made it to this level. And we sabotage ourselves. Know you belong there. Take a deep breath if you have to. Welcome to humanity. We all have moments of that panic of feeling like a fraud, feeling like, oh my God, it was sheer luck. How did I get here? Okay, welcome to humanity. We all have those thoughts. That's why having a friend, having a mentor, having somebody, a community of leaders you belong to, where you can talk about that, they can help you put it in perspective. We can't do this alone. None of us can. None of us can do this alone. Third point in authenticity. When we believe we are playing a part, I'm pretending I am this. I'm playing the part of I'm supposed to be the VIP. I'm supposed to be the leader of this meeting. I'm supposed to be. It isn't supposed to be. You are. There is no part to play. We need to walk out. This is, again, putting aside being nice, claiming our worth, and not playing a part. This is our authenticity. Showing up with confidence, with focus, clear-sighted. This is what my purpose is for this meeting. This is what my purpose is for today. This is what I want to achieve in the beginning stages of this project or in closing this project. Be clear-sighted and an acceptance that you belong, you've got the worth, and that your leadership is who you are. It's not what you do. It's not the job you're doing at the moment. That absolutely causes you to be the winner. It causes you to be seen as an authentic, real leader. Okay? There is no confusion about playing a part. We don't have parts to play. That would defeat our purpose. We want to be who we are because our job is really an expression of who we've become. Our job is an expression of who we are. And one of the things, and this brings me to something we know, following research, I'm sure, that when it comes to applying for a position, if a man is 60% qualified in terms of requirements for that job, he applies recognizing that some of the skills they want you to have are skills he would learn on the job. They weren't needed at this level. The skills they're listing are needed at that level. And his feeling is, I've got the vast majority of what's needed. I've got 60%. I will learn the rest on the job. I'm a quick learner. I will learn fast. Women believe they need to have 100% of the skills listed as paramount in that position. But the fact is, how could you have developed skills at something you've never done before? If you have the basic package and many of the necessary skills, you're willing to grow and learn, you will adapt amazingly. You will grow into the position. The reason we keep growing, we keep reaching to higher levels, is because it brings out more of us. We live up or down to people's expectations. That's a powerful statement our parents gave us that we might have forgot. We live up or down to others' expectations on us. And when we live up to the expectations of our next position, we grow into those skills. We become the woman who can handle that position. Become the woman who that position becomes easy. We become the woman who has conquered it. And as soon as we do, it's time for the next position because we've reached our level of expertise in this job. Doesn't mean we're perfect at it. That doesn't exist. But we are constantly growing and changing because we keep growing into it. Authentic leadership, this is what it's about. I am me. I'm doing it the best I can. I've got it. And I'm going forward. I am going and growing, and it's going to keep happening that way. When you recognize that, you reach out. You don't wait till you're perfect. You reach out. You go there, and you develop into it. Really, do not hold yourself back. Authentic leadership isn't about authority over, and it isn't about aggression. Aggression is always the defense. I've worked with someone who said, but this is just me. This is who I am. I don't believe it's just you. I believe it's how you behave. I believe it's how you act in relationships. I believe it's how you act in your leadership. But aggression is always a defense. Aggression is always about proving something, proving either that you won't be a victim, proving that you were good enough, proving that you got it made, you understand it, proving you're powerful, proving they can't beat you down. It doesn't matter what it is you're proving. Aggression is always a defense. And we cannot be healthy, effective leaders if we're coming from a place of defense. So recognize that. When you need to have authority over, just because I'm the boss, really? You don't need to you're the boss. You are the boss. You need to own your leadership and just express it. And never, ever go into aggression because it sabotages you every step of the way. It absolutely sabotages you. Looking at this, just as what I was just saying to you, our best expression of our authentic leadership is a byproduct of living our truth, owning our power, owning our creativity, and our unique skills and service. We have to be there, all right? If we don't own this, self-sabotage becomes a way of life. It absolutely does. And it truly means for so many that there is a basic misunderstanding of what leadership means. This is your leadership. And when you own that and you communicate that mindset, this is who I am, these are my strengths, these are my skills, and you put it out there, people see you walk in a room, and think about this yourself. When you walk into different rooms, and whether you're at a classroom with one of your kids or you're at a networking event, you can experience that woman or that man that has a presence. You know they're a leader because there's a presence about them. They don't even need to be talking. There's just a presence that they project. They are communicating without words. And that communication without words says, I don't know who they are, but clearly there's somebody important. There's somebody in leadership. They are somebody who has claimed their presence on the planet. When you do that, you're expressing your leadership in silence. You're expressing your leadership just by owning it. Once you start speaking, then your unique skills and service are expressed. Because leadership is about service. Leadership isn't about control, it's about service. The most effective leaders provide the greatest service. We need to recognize that. And for women, we need to look at, in communicating our leadership, the ways we most traditionally communicate self-sabotage. The first is through apologies. I have so frequently, and notice this yourselves, please notice this, don't just listen to me on this, recognize for yourself. Are you somebody who is constantly apologizing? I see so many women, and I listen when I go to networking events, I go to different events because I love to people watch. That's who I am. I love people watching. And notice how many women apologize constantly. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about this. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry about this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Basically, what you end up saying is, I'm sorry I exist. There is no way somebody is going to see you as powerful when you're apologizing for existing. But let me just give you one example and see how this feels in your body. If I say to you, oh, I'm awfully sorry, but I missed what you said. I don't mean to be inconvenienced. I'm sorry. But would you mind please repeating what you said? I'm really sorry to bother you. How do you feel? Another absolutely different way to say that is, excuse me, but I missed what you just said. Would you mind repeating that? Thank you. I'm a leader. I spoke to a leader. I spoke to an authority on something. Peer to peer. Excuse me, but I missed what you just said. Would you mind repeating that? Thank you. How much more powerful does that sound? How much more owning my position does that sound? Not my position over, but my position as a peer. My position as another person who is an expert in my field while you're an expert in yours. I missed what you said. Would you mind repeating that? It's a far, far more powerful statement. Two other ways I want to bring up. There are too many to go into in a short masterclass, but two other ways. Defensiveness. We sabotage through communication our leadership when we are defensive. Again, defensive, as I said earlier, around aggression. I've got an attitude, and nobody will put me in my place. Who wants to? Who wants to? People are not so worried about putting you in your place as they are about maintaining their own place. And the 4 agreements, we recognize if you've read the 4 agreements, the first thing is don't take anything personally. If you don't take it personally, you will not go into defense. You don't want to be in defense. It doesn't support you at all. Defensiveness could be the aggression. Defensiveness could also mean that I'm just going to shut up and sit back. And as this woman in the board meeting I talked about earlier, just somebody else told her idea, she sits back defensively and feels like a victim and becomes passive-aggressive. Passive-aggressive is very common with women. She becomes passive-aggressive, or she becomes sulky, whiny, complaining. These are all defenses that say, I am a victim, that say, I will fight. And you don't have to fight. If you're not a victim, there's nobody and nothing to fight. So just take a look. When you become defensive, do you go into quiet? Do you retreat? Do you become angry and silent? Notice what you do in defense, because whatever that is, you are sabotaging your leadership. And you don't even have to use the words, because it isn't always the words that we use, but the way in which we speak. Communication is truly about the way we speak. I can say to you, yes, we do need to reschedule that meeting. How about 9 or 9:30 tomorrow morning? Very different from, all right, we have to reschedule, but I want it soon. 9 or 9:30 tomorrow morning, that's what I want. Really? As soon as you go into defense, you call somebody else to go into defense. So be aware of what you're doing. Be aware of the impact you have on others. Leadership does that. Also, wordy. If you can say it in 12 words, do not use 150. Period. If you can say it in 12 words, do not use 150. You get disrespect, people stop listening, and you're not honored. Say what you need to say succinctly and clearly and move on. The new and emerging trends in business right now are ethics. It's amazing to see, because in our culture right now, in our political situation right now, here in the United States at least, and I know there are people participating from various countries. It's not just an American audience in this particular masterclass. But ethics are extremely important. It becomes something for us that, what is our ethical code? How do we want to live it? What do we want to do with it? Know your ethics, because in business and in leadership, it's always going to be challenged. And sometimes we don't know our own ethical code until we're on the border of breaking it. Recognize your ethics and bring it in. People-centered businesses. More and more, it started with conscious capitalism and kept on expanding. When we create our employees as our primary client, we change how we run the company. When our employees are our major focus, we've got people dedicated to our vision, dedicated to our purpose, and dedicated to our success. From there, we move out and we focus on clients, we focus on vendors. People-centered businesses are ironically making far more money at the moment, statistically, than bottom-line focused companies. People are beginning to purchase with their values as much as with their dollars. People are avoiding certain companies because they don't like the ethics, they don't like the values of the business. And with media being what it is, your values, your ethics are out there. If you are focused on people and on effective service, you will be far more successful and recognized truly as a leader in the new and emerging business trends for success. For you, you need to be purpose-driven. By becoming purpose-driven, you end up in a place where you have the ability to, in living your purpose, not burn out. If you are living your purpose, you excel at it. It's natural. You're living who you are. You're not trying to be somebody else. You're not trying to catch up. Living your purpose feeds your heart. It feeds your soul. And when you live your purpose, because you're at home in your own skin, you really are far more compassionate, far more relationship-based. Being a team player and a problem solver seems natural, and you do that. And it doesn't matter if you're in politics, corporate, or entrepreneurship. It's all irrelevant. When you are people-focused, you don't focus on winning. You focus on the people. You focus on being where you are and what you're doing. When you are people-focused, things change. Notice in Congress a few years ago when we had the shutdown, and the men in Congress were fighting over who's going to win, the Democrats or Republicans, this issue or that issue. People wanted to win. And they were fighting over the win, and since nobody wanted to give in, we were stymied. We were stuck in a government that was shut down until 9 women came together, Republicans and Democrats, and said, this is ridiculous. People are suffering. We don't need to win either party. They worked as one cohesive unit representing the American public. And within days, they ended the government shutdown because they gave up the need to win. They were driven by purpose of service to their people. Notice this about you, all right? We have documented information showing improvements in organizations with women in leadership because we bring in a culture that's around purpose, that's around service, that's around people. And as I said earlier, women-owned businesses are greatly impacting the economy. Purpose-driven, what is it about? Who am I? If your purpose is money, you're going to lose. If your purpose is living what you've come here to do, what is it? Know what your purpose is. We all have one. We all have one, and it doesn't matter the industry you're in, your purpose is what's important. I know for myself, I grew up as a child in the housing projects of South Boston. I was adopted and taken there to the projects. And from 6 years old, I wanted to help other women, as this child that I was, own their power and recognize they don't need to live in physically abusive marriages. They don't need to see themselves as failures. They were very successful at parenting, perhaps, or successful little entrepreneurs, but to own their power. To this day, I'm doing it. It's changed. I did it as a social worker. I did it as an international airline stewardess. I did it as a therapist, and now doing it as a coach and consultant in businesses. Always bringing people into the power of their own self-leadership and business leadership. Our purpose is defined when we're very young. What is your purpose? Why are you doing what you're doing? And it doesn't matter the industry. Because just as an example that's simple, in doing this leadership, I can do it if your industry is UTC. I can do it if it's at Sloan Kettering. It doesn't matter the industry. The purpose is the same. And that's who you are. What is your purpose? Know that, because you can take it anywhere when you identify it. Owning your leadership, recognizing who you are, and walking in purpose with your power, because this needs to be expressed everywhere. Looking at this, where you must own this leadership, where you must walk in this. When you're networking, when you're out there networking, whether it's with vendors or peers, you're looking for more clients, you're looking for whatever that is. Own who you are when you walk in the door. If you're feeling beaten down at the moment, take a few minutes in your car, breathe through it, and move forward. When you're team building, this doesn't mean you've got all the answers. You can say, folks, we're in trouble here. We need to come together and find some solutions to this, find some issues. Do so. Find the issues, find the solutions, and deal with it. But standing in your leadership while you do it, certainly with your clients, with referral partners that you may have. Recognize that this isn't what you do. It is who you are. Our gift is, our leadership is who we are. It is not what we do. It absolutely is not what we do. What we're doing is just the arena in which we express it. When you don't own your leadership, you are seen as up and coming versus established. How can you be respected if you're still seen as somebody up and coming? You want to be seen as established because you want to be taken seriously. When you don't have that ability yet, you tend to get lower paying clients who feel safe with you. You have lower tier opportunities. There is greater struggle for you to prove your worth, and you're working far longer hours because you're still trying to get respected. And that's hard to come by. People respect power. Not control, not defense. They respect power. So it is so really important that you own yours. All right? Women who are living in that power and leadership, as I said earlier, they are clear and focused in their message. They're creating a legacy by living on purpose. And it doesn't mean your children and your grandchildren are going to pick this up. But what it says is that you are creating a legacy. That you are here and you're making a change, whether you're making a change in the culture of your company, you're making a change in your industry. Years ago, I had a school in integrative healthcare. I had a 4-year program training energy medicine practitioners, looking at the psychological and spiritual causes of physical disease and disorders, empowering people to claim their health because their health was in their hands. We started integrative health departments in 50 hospitals or medical facilities across the country. That's a legacy. I'm long gone. After 19 years, I closed my school, but many of those places still have integrative health departments. You begin a legacy and you let it go. Why does that happen? Because you live your purpose. And mine, again, was empowering people to know the health was in their hands. Always taking your leadership of your own life, from your health to your personal life, to your being, to your business. Create a legacy. Women tend to do that. They're thinking much bigger. We're the nurturers. We bring it in. Take ownership. Powerful women take ownership of their power, of their abilities and their successes. Listen to that. Women leaders take ownership of their power, their ability, and their successes. And they are constantly in the process of developing emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence means that I respond, I don't react. Emotional intelligence means I am not going to take things personally. And I may know that at this moment in time I want to kill somebody. Great. I know that. I recognize that. I'm not going to be blaming the world for that. I'm going to take 5 minutes to breathe through this, to own it, and then go forward. I know me well enough to know this is it. No, we all have our own defaults, if you will. I default to overwhelmed. As a young child, I lived in a home 6 years of age where my job became to keep my mothers and brothers and sisters alive from a very violent, angry alcoholic father. So I was overwhelmed at 6 years of age. How do you do that? I managed it, but how do you do that? So at this point in time, whenever I feel overwhelmed, I'm aware that the woman I've become is not overwhelmed, that for this moment in time, I've moved back into the emotional state of that 6-year-old child. Recognizing it, emotional intelligence says, I don't get overwhelmed. I recognize now, if there's a problem, I'll deal with it. If I need to step back and make a to-do list, I'll do so. But I'm not going to get overwhelmed at it. I'm going to deal with it. So if I'm in the state of overwhelmed, I'm back at 6. I'm emotionally intelligent. I know my emotions well enough to know where that came from and what it's about. Powerful women leaders are mindful. They're mindful of what's going on in themselves. Am I going into defense? Am I not? They're mindful of what's going on around them. They're mindful of the impact they just had on somebody. Really important. And because their life is in order and they recognize how blessed they are, they become contributors to their community. Women in leadership, women who own their power, see themselves, if they're in the industry, as businesswomen. There was a time in my life when I owned 2 companies, and I just thought of myself as a single mother who owned 2 companies. That was it. I was at a meeting with a group of entrepreneurs, men, I was the only woman in the room, and someone turned to me and said, "You're quite the businesswoman." And it took a minute to register. I am a businesswoman. What a shock. I am a businesswoman, not just a woman in business. Know this about yourself. Recognize your power, recognize your leadership, and go there. Own it, make it happen, have the correct mindset, know your communication style, and own that leadership. You can do it. You just can't do it alone. You need community. It happens. I'm forming a community, a membership community at the end of the month, welcoming in women leaders who need a community to support each other, to run things by, to get a kick in the bottom if you need it, whatever it might be, to recognize that our leadership cannot be done in isolation. We need others around to help support us own it, those moments when we can't. Thank you so very, very much. I truly appreciate you being here. I truly appreciate the opportunity to teach and support you. It is important to me that we come together, truly. If you need to reach me, this is my email address. This is my phone number. You've got it all, I'm certain, from the emails you've been receiving. I'm more than happy, more than willing to support you. Thank you so very, very much. Have a great day.